Hey, it's the right weekend, and I have a question. Well, kind of rhetorical, but I'll answer it. Are lockdowns coming again? Well, if we see I'm gonna go through some articles here that um, alarming articles from other parts of the world and see what's going on because I think it's if we don't fight back, then it's gonna happen here again. I think um, we were so scared the last year that we allowed it, and I think I well, let's see. I don't know if we're going to allow it to happen again this year or soon. It could be beginning next year. We'll see what happens. Um, but let's start with what's going on around the world. Um, just was just about about 2 weeks ago. China locks down city the size of London after 17 COVID cases found. China has locked down the city of some 9.3 million people, a similar population to that of London, just after 17 cases. It comes as China reported its highest daily number of new cases since January on Tuesday and shut down plans to investigate the COVID 19's origin. So as you can see, I mean, obviously, we're not China. You know, they don't have the same. I mean, I'm not going to assume that they don't have freedom. They probably have some very limited freedom, but for them, they don't know what you know freedom is in comparison to what we have in other countries. But yeah, this is you know. If this happens here, well, we'll do stuff like that, especially with what some of these people are talking about unvaccinated people and wanting to separate us into vaccinated versus unvaccinated people. And it's just silly because honestly, what's more dangerous? Having a couple of unvaccinated people and in a room full of vaccinated people, or having a bunch of unvaccinated people all together, which is more dangerous? But here's in Australia, they're deploying helicopters and soldiers to order people to go home. It says here, um, in one of the world's strictest COVID lockdowns, it says here, a man caught a chopper shouting out stay at home orders from a loudspeaker and shared it online. Now I remember, I think something similar happened in New York, that there were drones, I think, saying that there was drones. Excuse me, I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the camera directly, but I'm just uh I have my phone that I usually just have as uh a reminder of how long the video's gone by, just so I could be overwinded and go too far. I try to keep it a certain somewhere between 20 to 20 minutes tops, unless I'm interviewing somebody. So here it goes. So the guy, I mean, you can see from the images here. I mean, the helicopter is, um, it's they're yelling at people. But it goes, Sydney is under lockdown following a worrying surge of cases of the Delta variant. In footage, a blue and white helicopter circles the Aussie, who blurts out "What the?" as he's warned that local police would find him and issue a fine. Australia is enforcing one of the most severe lockdowns in the world and recently called in the military to help enforce its zero COVID strategy, which is ridiculous. Look, as much I'd love for there to be zero COVID as much as the next person, but it's not going to happen. We're going to have to end up living with it. It's basically going to end up being another. I'm not comparing it to the flu. I'm just saying it's going to be like the flu, where we're going to have to live with it. We're going to have, you know, we don't lock everything down during a bad flu season. Um, people get the flu shot, people don't. You just gotta stay home if you're sick. Normally, that's what we tell people with the flu and so forth. That's what common sense. You live in a free country. You don't know if you're sick. You don't know if you're going to get anybody else sick. But you go in your car. There's a chance that you could get into a car accident. It doesn't mean that you don't drive because there's a chance you're going to get into an accident. Yes, there's a chance, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen every single time you get in the car. Every single time you leave your house, you're at risk of plenty of diseases. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. I mean, I lived in Texas when there was the Ebola case there. It didn't mean I was going to get Ebola every time I left the house. But like my question is, are these lockdowns going to come here? I hope not. I really don't know if I don't know if there's enough. I don't know if I think there's just too much animosity right now for there to be a lockdown. I think we're fatigued. We're fatigued from this. I think that the fear porn that they're selling us. Um, I think I xed out the article where they talked about basically, even though the Delta cases, even though with the Delta variant, the uh, cases are going up, but deaths aren't um, going up as well. It's just steady, which people don't want to hear this. It's a good thing because if it's become more contagious but less deadly, that's a good thing because that means okay, yeah, more people may get it, but less people will die. That's a good thing. I mean, that'll just put it in, like I said, put it in line with the flu. But this is what's going to go on. I believe if they try to install lockdowns here, what you're going to see is what happened in Germany. Um, in Germany, let's see if here, I mean, here's this protest going on of the lockdowns in Italy. I mean, in Germany, there's huge crowds. The irony, protesting the uh, the restrictions, the COVID restrictions in Germany. And this is Germany. This is not us here. This is Germany. This is what's going on in Germany. And here's what's going on in France. Look at this. Look at this in France. And it's not just the restrictions they're protesting. They're protesting the the vaccine passports. You could see it here. Thousands protest against COVID health pass in France. Thousands of people protested in Paris and other French cities on Saturday against the mandatory coronavirus health pass for entry to a wider array of public venues introduced by the government as it battles a fourth wave of infections. Like I said, we're going to have to live with this. There's no such thing as there's going to be no such thing as zero COVID. It's just not. It's the third weekend in a row that people opposed to President Emmanuel Macron new COVID-19 measures have taken to the streets in an unusual show of determination at a time of year when many people are focused on taking their summer break. And I'm hoping that this is the type of reaction we get in this country that people, if they try to pass the passports, the only problem is we're so divided with this. It's like, um, there's some people that the government says jump and they say how high. And the irony behind that is, y- this is really coming mostly from the Dems because right now their party's in power, their president's in power, so they say jump. He says jump, they say how high. But it shouldn't be a Democrat versus Republican issue. We live in a free country. There's certain prices we pay for living in a free country, and one of those prices is that there is a level of risk in our lives that we have. Like I said earlier about the car example, you could be walking in the street, you know, guy loses control of the car, hits you with a car. Happens. Stuff like that happens. You could fall down a flight of stairs. There's so many things that can happen to you when you don't know. Falling, you could fall down the flight of stairs in your own home. So bad things happen. It's part of life. It's part of the human condition. But we need to fight these totalitarians. There's authoritarians. They're using the crisis, like Rob Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And they're trying to push stuff that they normally wouldn't get away with, just like what happened after 9/11 with Bush, when they passed a bunch of stuff that normally, I mean, the stuff that they tried to pass prior to 9/11, but it never went nowhere. And then after 9/11, bam. Have we been able to reverse all that stuff that was pushed after 9/11? Of course not. But here we are again. They're they're pushing power grabs. This is, I ask, especially I ask my Democratic friends, if this was Trump trying to push some of these things that he was doing, would you be outraged? And if the answer is yes, then why are you not outraged if Biden's doing it? That should be the key point that you should ask yourself. If you think you're being overly partisan, ask yourself, if the president that you don't like, if they did it, would you be outraged? So, like, with Biden as president, I used to ask people the same thing. If Hillary was president, how would you feel if Hillary was president and they were trying to do this? This is what I used to tell people when Bush was president. And, when Obama was president, I told people the same. So what if it was, Bush doing it? How would you feel? And that's what you have to ask yourself. We're at, being in the times that we are in, we have to ask ourselves that question. Would you be mad if it was the person of an opposite party? And if the answer is yes, then you should still be upset. It shouldn't matter which political party is taking away our freedoms. We should stand against it regardless. So please, my friends, my Democratic friends, please, fight, help us fight this, because it's not about, it's about the freedom, it's about our own freedoms, the freedoms of our children. We don't want these lockdowns, because COVID's not going to be the last disease. COVID's not going to be the last emergency that they're going to take advantage of. So, whether it's Bush after 9/11 or now Biden after, post COVID, once the government takes those powers, they don't relinquish it. So we need to pay attention to that. And that's the way that we have to approach our people, the people who don't agree with us. Is it, like I said, if if it was in the case of, in the current cases, you ask them, if Trump was trying to, or even, I mean, I know it's a cheap trick, but be like, hey, you remember when, Trump did this, and you basically point to something Biden did. And if they're like, oh man, no, Trump didn't do that, Biden's doing that now. Now they may get mad, but you may wake someone up that way. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, we need to all come together and fight these um, authoritarian um, politicians that want to just take control over everything, and strip us of our freedoms. So I'm the Right Rican. You can follow me on, if you're watching this on YouTube, I also post on Rumble. And also, if you want, you can interact with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram. Those are the ones I interact with the most. With that being said, have a good one.